In St. Petersburg, Florida recently, satanic symbols filled the air at this concert by Danish-born King Diamond.
How much can you influence kids? I think people are too clever to be influenced by watching a band or listening to an album to go out and do the same. Because if they were that easy to influence, watching the news, you get the real thing. And everybody knows that right into your living room. Personally, I am a Satanist, a practicing Satanist. But we never tried to preach that religion to anybody.
Is this resurgence in Satan just happening in San Francisco, or is it happening all?
It's happening all over the world, and it's coming about in a lot of different ways. Some people can call it Satanism, but this force that's happening in the world is coming about all over. It's like resurgent atavism, and some people call it Satanism, some people call it by other names, but it's happening all over, and it will happen more and more.
Is there an Armageddon coming? I mean, is there a date that you're aiming for?
No, I think Armageddon came a long time ago. The end of the world came ages ago, but it happened slowly over a period of time and nobody noticed it. It's an ongoing process. The world today is different than the world 30 years ago. It's like decayed so much, and it's decaying more and more all the time. And as that decay gets worse, we get stronger. And we are rising up as the entire world is sinking down. The entire world is rotten and corrupt, and they're ordaining their own death. To us, they're just dead people who refuse to lay down. They're cadavers.
How long have you been personally involved with Satan worship?
Well, I don't worship anything called Satan with hooves and so on. It's more a philosophical thing. It's an understanding of power. It's a clear understanding of power and how it operates in the world. The non-Satanist is someone who's always confused and mixed up in the world of illusions. They'll be watching television, and it's sort of like the Carney Act. Someone's like pounding the table while they're shuffling the cards underneath the table. It's like a Carney game. It's what's happening is that they're being set up to be automatons and to be good consumers. I'm against that world of illusion, and if people can see what's really happening, getting pure information out there, which is what I set out to do, then I think there's at least a chance, or more of a chance, to change the world in a good way.
What do you say to your critics who probably consider you evil and damaging and that sort of thing?
Well, they can consider me evil. I don't consider myself evil. I consider myself a source of pure information. I don't consider myself an illusionist. Illusionists are evil, people who block information. And since I give out information, I feel that I'm doing... I'm not a Christian reformer or anything, but I do feel that I'm providing a service.
People think biblically as the inverse or the opposite of God.
We do not believe in an actual, as I said, as an actual entity. Okay, we are atheists, at least as far as the Church of Satan is concerned. We feel that Satan is polemic, he is allegorical, and he is symbolic. He represents the forces of nature that make mankind something unique and individual, that element that allows us to perceive ourselves as gods, as opposed to worshiping a sentient being outside of ourselves.
Well, what about all of the other people, and I know you're not here to speak for everyone else that is a Satan worshiper, but at the same time, to say that you are a Satan worshiper invokes these thoughts of people who sit around with the pentagram and doing rituals with candles, and we hear about sacrifice.
That's a misnomer right from the beginning. We do not call, the Church of Satan, the members that constitute that order, do not call themselves Satan worshipers. If there is anybody outside of our organization who says that, that is based upon their own desires, okay? And we see ourselves as Satanists. There's a difference between the identifying with a symbol and the worship of that symbol. We do not worship Satan. We identify with what he represents.
How
that
difficult
most people would never be able to cut the mustard. We are after the absolute elite of humanity.
Okay,
and
well, what do you have to do to be
go out
so
and
elite?
commit these crimes in the name of Satan are the kind of people that who would read the Satanic Bible and would misinterpret it, the same way in which certain people would read the Bible and misinterpret it.
Rex, what do you have to do to be so elite? What makes you so elite in the society?
First of all, the Church of Satan members are law-abiding. We believe in order. We believe in discipline. We believe in absolute control of our own environment. We are anti-drug. We are anti-substance abuse. In fact, there are many members of both the U.S. Armed Forces as well as the police forces who belong to the Church of Satan because they're able to accept the idea that we represent order and discipline in a society that is so corrupt and its hallmark is nothing more than chaos.
All right, well, what else? You just given me just the basic thing, the same thing you need to be in a Boy Scouts. I'm sure it's a little bit different to be in your organization. What else do you need to do to make you so elite?
The ability that sets an individual away from the rest of the herd.
Yeah, at what age did you start believing in Satanism?
My parents were early members of the Church of Satan, like many other people during the 60s who were searching for something, an answer to life and the human equation. My parents were very interested in being able to access information of something they felt was superior to that which they saw around them. So my parents did not indoctrinate me in Satanism. I was allowed to look at information that was just left laying around the house. I grew up in a very liberal household.
Oh, it's obvious it was a liberal household. But now, in all this, did you obviously have read yourself information about people who use the name of Satan and your organization to go out and commit these crimes? What is your organization doing to stop those splinter groups from doing wrong?
Showing up on shows like this to tell people like it really is.
Who would you say the destruction of the world being? Who would you blame it on? God, or would you blame it on Satan? And then would you say rock and roll or any type of music has any influence on the children of today
who are becoming Satanists?
To address your question there, I would say that the destruction of the world, its present myopic and cesspool condition, is responsible almost solely to the religion of Christianity, which perpetrates the idea of acceptance of everyone on an equal footing. And I do not personally believe, nor does the Church of Satan believe, that people are equal. People are different based upon their abilities. And secondly, rock and roll has nothing to do with Satanism. It is crap fit for cretins, and we don't have anything to do with it. This heavy metal garbage that's been fostered on us has nothing to do with our...
Wait, Paul, no, you can't, not this second. Rex, I want you to answer this. People are not equal. Who are the more superior people? Who are the medium people, and who are the people that are less superior?
People that can succeed in their everyday lives, whether that's the job that they're involved in, or perhaps a hobby or something that they excel worthwhile at. This is neither racist, this is completely cross-cultural, this goes into every single level of human existence. Those people who can raise themselves up out of the bootstraps, or
they're superior people?
Bring themselves up out of their own culture and take a look at themselves and say, look, I'm different and I'm somehow superior because I can do this, this, and this, and yet I don't feel guilty for it. Those people are worthy of the title of elitist and most likely would become one of us. So the thing is, people think that Satanists don't love. That's ridiculous. We do love those that mean something to us.
We have to take a break, Rex.
We are the opposite of Christianity. We are in every manner, shape, and form completely opposed to the 2,000-year-old philosophy of alienation and weakness. We are here, we're not going away, and Christianity and the Day of the Cross are done.
Okay, Greg.
Okay, let's very quickly go over that. How is that possible, sir, that you are from the Church of Satan and you say there is no hell?
Well, because we don't believe in God, the devil, heaven, or hell. We follow the laws of nature, and we think that whatever we do with our lives will be rewarded for it here and now. And we don't think that after death there will be some sort of punishment or reward.
Okay, you don't believe in Satan as a being?
No.
What is Satan to you?
It's something that's symbolic. It just represents the adversary. We use the name Satan because it's fun, it's stimulating. Satan's sort of the ultimate
Adversary
rebel.
in what sense?
Historically, Satan has been the adversary, but just the adversary of all Judeo-Christian values, the adversary of democratic values. It's more of values that are found in nature, life, law.
But you don't worship him?
No, it's been said that we worship ourselves, but we put ourselves first. We're in the center of our world.
Okay, basically what we're hearing here is a human being has foibles, we're greedy, sometimes we're revengeful, we're not all good. So what you're saying basically is that's part of the human being, and you just accept that as
yes,
okay.
Satanism is based on accepting all those things, whereas all the other religions are based on rejecting them and denying them. We don't deny anything that's an
Okay, what if a person is very bad on this earth and does things that are bad for him, excessiveness in anything, in drinking, in sexuality?
Cause and effect.
Where does he get it? Here?
Here.
What is the difference between a satanic cult and the Church of Satan?
Satanic cults are based on sort of nonsense and propaganda that people like him have been churning out to the public to keep this little bit of fear going. This is
we be a little more
dying religion.
Okay, can we be a little more specific?
It's on its last legs, and they need whatever little bit of fear they can get.
I know you guys are mad at each other.
Motivate.
But I need to motivate my audience with information. I mean, what is the basic difference between a satanic cult and the Church of Satan for you?
We're a power philosophy that's based on an understanding of nature and the laws of nature. A satanic cult, it has its roots in Judeo-Christian mythology, and the sort of baby-killing, cat-killing stuff has been made up by people like this, and there's no evidence for it anywhere.
Dr. Gutierrez.
Okay, I think...
Man is an animal. He's an animal just like this animal. He's not exalted among the creatures of the earth. He just happens to have a brain that's made him a little more capable of causing a great destruction to his environment than any other animal has been. Because of his intelligence, he's been able to actually pervert his animal nature to an extent no other animal has been able to. And if it really kind of said to you, if man would just accept himself as the animal that he is and enjoy his own natural impulses and live with them, exploit them, and not deny them the way the Christians would have you deny your impulses for some afterlife. It's never going to happen. He'd be a lot better off. Human beings, even if they're atheists, and even if outside of the ritual chamber when they're walking down the street, they don't really believe there's a God up there, controlling their fate. Human beings are hardwired for ritual activity and behavior. Every single group of humans, the first thing they do, they get together is they have to, figure out who their God is and like how they're going to ask for more rain or whatever it is that they need. And we figure that since humans need this so much, we'll use it. And we'll do a satanic ritual. We'll hail Satan in a ritual. And we'll concentrate our emotional energies that way and maybe get rid of them. Maybe purge them. And maybe these energies go out and actually influence people to do what we'd like them to do, and maybe they don't. But in any case, we've gotten rid of the feelings that we've had. We've concentrated them. We've used religious dogma to do that. And we feel it's psychologically very healthy.
But who is this Satan you then use in ritual?
When we talk to Satan in a ritual, we're really talking to that creative force in ourselves that makes it possible for us to do the things that we want to do in our lives.
So that's nothing to do with a biblical Satan or Lucifer?
It doesn't.
No.
We do believe that the strong should survive and the weak should fail. That's the way nature ordains things to be. That is the way the universe works.
But then who defines who are the strong and who are the weak?
Nature does. It works out by itself. You don't set up laws. That's what the Third Reich did. They're like, we're going to say, we're going to tell you what nature is. It's like, they don't know. You don't have to do anything. It does it by itself. But we do believe that Satanists are born not made. We really think that you are a Satanist by your nature, and that you can't become one. That you read the book and go, oh, that's what I am. But you can't go, I want to be that. You really can't be something else and then turn yourself into a Satanist.
But what did Satanists do before Anton LaVey hit the scene?
Well, we call people like that de facto Satanists. Like before he codified and made a specific religion, there's always been people who behave like this because we think, as Peggy said before, it's like an ethnic. It's like a group.
Yeah.
We're all there in society, and people, well, actually, they've often gravitated towards dark things. In our country, the United States of America, Benjamin Franklin was one of the founding fathers who was a genius in diplomacy and science. He was a member of the Hellfire Club. And they used to perform satanic rituals, and they used Masonic symbolism in the creation of all the symbology for this country. So they were Satanists. I mean, even though the Church of Satan didn't exist, like they've been there, all through human history. Each culture has something going on that would be reflective of the Satanists that exist in it. The first thing a Satanist needs to do is really know who they are. That's the most important thing, is a self-exploration. And once you really know who you are and your abilities, then you can satisfy them. And satisfaction and joy in this life is what we're interested in.
Yeah. But who are then the weak? It's always lots to talk about the weak in all these papers I read. And who's going to die. It's brutal, but it has happened according to social Darwinistic law and natural laws. Who are they?
Well, the weak would be sort of anyone in sort of the social structure that are parasites, like that aren't sort of earning their keep, aren't doing their own thing to keep alive. You know, what we have done, I think we see it as like a result of 2,000 years of the Christian idea of that life of any sort is precious, which we don't necessarily agree with. Because the way life works, life creates and destroys. It's a constant process. And we've sort of been influenced by Christianity to try to keep every little thing going, which may not be appropriate for the environment. There's only so much resources, there's only so much room, that it's wiser to let those who cannot survive not.
Yeah.
It's just the way things work.
But does this apply to like third world countries who accept funds from, for instance, America?
Well, they're smart to accept funds because America's stupid to give them. I mean, the thing is, America, I don't believe we should give funds, I think most Satanists would agree, unless it's quid pro quo. Like, we'll give you something, but we expect something back, culturally or allegiance-wise or something. There should always be a give and take, something that's...
But many people will argue that many of these third world countries are a result of the Western world exploiting these countries in the first place.
Some could
So it's a kind of back payment.
Yeah, well, in that case, then that's appropriate. Everybody's got to kind of work out their perspective and get what they can in that respect.
Yeah.
So we don't have a unified globe, and we probably won't.
No.
And if anything, it's going to fragment more and be a lot more smaller groups like vying with each other. And that's natural. I mean, the whole point is like to see who comes out on top in the end. Like we'll see.
So you do agree that society as such actually creates weak people?
Oh, it can. Sure.
Yes. So it's not necessarily their personal fault.
No, it's not necessarily. Sometimes it is too, though.
Yeah.
You know, it's a really broad picture. You can't sit down there and say we're going to make a law that you're weak and you're strong. What I think we're looking for is to not sort of unnaturally prolong things that are obviously not going to survive, because that is against nature.
But this Baphomet, where does this name come from?
Well, the ancient. See, that's a whole...
I could fluff my way through it.
Baphomet is a word that people aren't even sure of its exact origin. When you look back at the Knights Templar, they were using it for their symbol. And I don't know if you know much about them, but the Templars were a group of knights that were a Christian order, but they went to the Middle East and they learned about philosophy and science from them and became the greatest architects and engineers in all of Europe. And they also created the first banking systems. They were eliminated by the aristocracy because they had all the money and the smarts. And especially Philip the Fair in France decided, well, his whole regime was bankrupt, and the Templars had a lot more money than France did. So he had them killed and took all their money by saying they were devil worshippers. And the thing is, philosophically, they were. I mean, because they were basically interested in science and engineering and running the world. They were very carnal. Now, the surviving Templars ran up to Scotland and regrouped there and actually helped the Scottish win their independence from Britain. And they began Freemasonry. Like the whole piece, they were the first major engineers. They learned it all in the Middle East. And the ideas of Masonry went to the creation of the philosophies that started the United States. The United States is the first Masonic republic in the history of the planet. And therefore, the Templars are satanic, the Masons are satanic. You know, it's like that's our sort of tradition. So Baphomet might have been a corruption of Muhammad for their symbol. The name might have come from there. But then also, there's all kinds of Greek derivations that it could possibly be this, and there's numerological ones. This is like there's books written on this. There's no real solid proof that Baphomet means one specific thing.
No.
But it was a name. It came from the Templars.
So you use it because it's in the tradition in a way.
Right. It's in the tradition.
Yeah.
So the Templars used that symbol.
Yeah.
And it was the Baphomet, the sigil of Baphomet. And actually, in ancient that shows 3 different branches of Satanism, because the pentagram it comes from Pythagoras in ancient Greece, which is the idea of the concept of mathematical perfection and the forms. And the pentagram is the most perfect of forms because each segment of the pentagram, each line segment is in that perfect phi ratio, the golden ratio that was considered perfection in architecture. It's also the physical form, like our arms and legs and head are all in phi ratio. When you have flowers, they all grow petals and blooms. It's a universal constant. It's something that is part of nature. It's the dark force in nature. It's expressed in the phi ratio. So the pentagram is our symbol. And the Pythagoreans knew that. They were also considered satanic too in their time. As Peggy mentioned before, the goat face is the carnal side. Now that comes from ancient Egypt. The priesthood of Ammon. Ammon was the ram-headed god, and Ammon was the hidden force, like the breath that moved through all existence, but always remained hidden and moved all things. Well, we consider our priesthood. Mendes in Egypt was the city that.
And he wasn't pictured like a goat, was he?
Oh yeah, it's like a ram or goat. Like the Egyptians, their art is a little different, but it's the same animal that it comes from. Like we draw it that way because it fits better in the star, but like, that's where it comes from. So our priesthood, we trace back to that old priesthood in Egypt of Ammon. Now, the Hebrew figures are spelling out counterclockwise the word Leviathan. Leviathan is the great serpent of the watery abyss, and the waters were considered the primal dark.
Yeah.
And so the Levite, the Ophite Jews were the satanic Jews, the ones who had the understanding of reality and existence. So we have all those traditions all summed up in one symbol from all different cultures. You call us fascists in a sense because we believe in equality and believe that things should have some value. And in this culture where everything is considered okay, everything is sort of reduced to one mediocre level, we believe that you have to be able to judge and have discrimination. Like, discrimination is not a bad word.
But it's still not fascist because it's up to the individual. You don't have this...
Right. But I mean, but for that we're considered fascist because we say, well, that's good art, that's bad. Like, there's different levels. We believe there's levels of quality, and that you have to be able to judge that. And that's evil in today's society. Today's society is like, oh, we're all okay. It's all the same. And like, we're incredibly against that point of view. And that's probably the most evil thing that we do, is that we can point, if somebody is totally talentless and he's being hyped to everybody, like, we'll say, that sucks. And that's our most evil thing that we do in our culture.
But it's kind of complicated. Who is to define good taste or bad taste? It's always been a problem.
Taste is one thing, but I think when you get to the level of artwork, if you're going to compare Beethoven to like a grunge band, I think there are some objective standards we can apply. The Taj Mahal and a mud hut. There's a difference. It's not so. See, because the thing is, that's what relativists will say. Oh well, it really is all the same, but it's like it isn't. It isn't so like. On a microscopic level, but I think that it's a common sense thing that we can make these decisions.
You have a big faith in the common sense, then? I don't know.
The whole thing is like, no, if you have it.
Yeah.
But most people don't.
So common.
It's not so. You see, it really isn't common. It's like it's what's called common sense. But common sense is understanding sort of the balance that exists in nature, and if you're in touch with that, you have it. And we don't think everybody's the same in that respect. Like, we do think that there are people who are really cut off from nature and that they don't have any kind of sense and they don't have any fulfillment sexually or emotionally. And that we think that they hate people who do feel satisfied. I mean, characters like that are always depicted in literature. You'll see in The Scarlet Letter, Reverend Dimsdale, the sort of evil priest, like he's a Christian in that one, which is very appropriate because their whole religion is based on that idea of like hatred of lust. And hatred of somebody who is satisfied with joy. Like it's something that we see in a lot of sort of Christianized culture. That this total like jealousy, and we think that these people feel like empty inside, and that they're like vampires. Like they want to like suck the life force out of people, and they're not satanic. And so much Christian philosophy comes from that impulse, which is why a lot of times like Satanists like focus on Christianity to be opposed to, because so much of Christianity is based on that anti-life impulse. It's like Christians hate women. If you look through all Christian literature, Mary is okay because she's a virgin. She can't have sex. She can't enjoy her life. I mean, that's evil. I mean, from our point of view, they are evil.
Yeah.
Their whole philosophy and setup is negative. It's anti-human.
But you would actually say that.
We are going to take you on a journey to those places in our modern world where the devil still resides.
A black mass is a satanic ritual which we would use to purge any obsession we would have with Christianity. Since we live in a society that has for many centuries been dominated by the Christian plague, we find it as a way of purging ourselves of any obsession with that particular mythology and that system. In our worldview, in our philosophy, there is only one force, and that is Satan. Each person has to come up with their own definitions of good and evil, and it relates specifically to their personal interaction with other people and with the events in nature. We are beyond good and evil.
Behold the symbol of the putrid flesh of he who would purge the earth of infernal pleasure, and who, in the name of Christian justice, did cause the deaths of millions of our beloved brethren. We curse him and defile his name. May the black flame of Satan consume thee, you God of the living dead. Consummatum est. Shemham Forash.
Shemham Forash!
Hail, Satan!
Hail, Satan!
The age of fire has begun.
Satan represents the archetype of the rebel, of the outsider, of the alienated, and the accuser. And that is an archetype that I adopt for myself. It is a role model that I myself am a Satan in the society in which I exist. Some criminals may incorporate bits of satanic ritual into their activities, but they use them in a way that shows that they don't understand what they're about. They are misinterpreting Satanism and twisting them for their own personal ends. It is as if someone read the Christian Bible and had a mass and killed somebody in the middle of it. Now, Christians would say, well, that's certainly not what our mass is about. And when somebody performs a satanic ritual and abuses a child or kills somebody, if that actually happens, which we have seen very little evidence of, then they are misrepresenting and misinterpreting our religion as well.
Crowley's focus on promiscuous sex and magic catches the attention of a San Francisco occultist named Anton LaVey.
If you take that definition of a cult being some group of people that are not finding answers with conventional religions, then certainly Satanists would fit into that category. We don't require the same kind of adherence to protocols and dogma that a lot of people expect from conventional religions.
In 1966, LaVey, a former crime photographer and lion tamer, begins to study the teachings of Aleister Crowley. In this rare footage, LaVey performs a satanic ritual where he takes sexuality and magic one step further, combining man's love of sex with demonic worship. It is spawned by what LaVey sees as sexual hypocrisy in the Catholic Church.
He'd see the same guys lusting after the women on Saturday night, coming to pray and repent on Sunday morning. And he was rather disdainful of humans in general. He began to gather an eccentric group of individuals around him who are interested in the dark side of life. I mean, he's the ultimate rebel. He rebelled against God.
LaVey authors the Satanic Bible, outlining the tenets of his belief.
Satan represents indulgence instead of abstinence. Satan represents vengeance instead of turning the other cheek. Satan represents all of the so-called sins, as they all lead to physical, mental, or emotional gratification. Satan has been the best friend the church has ever had, as he has kept it in business all these years.
Anton LaVey had started his career doing a variety of unusual jobs, playing the organ for carnivals and burlesque houses, taming lions, and working as a crime photographer for the police department. He first gained fame as a member of San Francisco's counterculture. Beginning in 1963, a group of eccentrics known as the Magic Circle met once a week at Anton's house to discuss the occult.
He started gathering this interesting cadre of people around him, and they wanted to explore some of these rituals and some of these sort of offbeat ideas that all of them were coming up with.
The weekly topics ranged from vampires and werewolves to magic and ESP. As these gatherings started to grow in size, it became clear to Anton that others were interested in exploring the realm of the unknown. He decided that a church dedicated to Satan would be the perfect outlet. He figured there was no better way to attract attention and cause outrage. On April 30th, 1966, Anton LaVey founded the Church of Satan.
He wanted to found the Church of Satan because he knew that it would be offensive to a lot of people. He had a great sense of fun and satire, and he liked to play with people's brains. It wasn't that he wasn't sincere with his philosophy, because he most certainly was, but he also enjoyed the discomfort that people felt at that dreaded S word. He found it very amusing.
Church followers known as Satanists maintain that they don't believe in the devil literally, as a supernatural being with cloven hoofs and a tail. Instead, they view the devil as a symbol of defiance.
Essentially, Satanists worship themselves. Each person is their own god in Satanism. We choose Satan as a symbol to represent our philosophy because Satan etymologically means the adversary, the accuser, one who opposes or questions.
At first, the church only attracted followers from around the Bay Area. Then in 1967, Anton performed a satanic wedding, baptism, and funeral. The media clamored to cover the events. Overnight, Anton LaVey and his church achieved international notoriety.
He was saying things that were dynamic and interesting and startling to a lot of people, and he put together these sexy, dramatic, enticing images that went with it, and of course journalists came knocking at his door.
Anton, as the church's highest priest, wrote the Satanic Bible and instituted rituals known as the Black Mass.
Open wide the gates of hell and come forth by these names.
The ceremonies were full of parody and satire. Anton would light black candles and lead followers in chants to Satan while standing in front of a naked woman, serving as the altar. With his public rituals and his blasphemous black masses, Anton gained quite a following. Critics saw him as a media hound, only out to gain publicity for himself.
Satanists don't see anything as being equal. We see the entire realm of existence being hierarchical, and that specifically includes people. The Church of Satan was founded in 1966 by Anton Szandor LaVey. His concept was to create a religion that was a first embodiment of a religion that worships the flesh rather than the spirit. Previously, all of the major religions in Western and Eastern history were concerned with spiritualism, not carnality. So this would be a church to worship things of the flesh, not the spirit.
During LaVey's life, he found that the conventional wisdoms of society and modern religion were glib and hypocritical.
The Church of Satan is very different from other religions. It's not the kind of organization where people attend weekly rituals. It's one that's a cabal of independent individuals that basically follow their own paths. They find their own way to achieve the best results they can for having happiness in their lives. If they ritualize, they generally do it in their own homes. We don't believe in setting up church structures that people have to gather in. It's much more underground than that, kind of the Orwellian cell system approach, rather different from most contemporary religions. It's quite apart from a Christian framework. We don't accept the Christian idea of there being a God and a devil, a creator and creations. We believe that Satan is essentially an idea and a symbol for us.
According to LaVey, Satan represents man as just another animal, sometimes better, more often worse than those that walk on all fours, who, because of his divine spiritual and intellectual development, has become the most vicious animal of all.
All of human consciousness is metaphorical and symbolic. It's natural to our species. So essentially, we pick the right metaphors and symbols that we feel resonate with the truth about the way man and nature functions. So Satan to us is this dark force that permeates and motivates nature, akin to a force of gravity. It's not an entity. It's not something to worship or something to sacrifice to, since it's not a conscious, sentient being. It's simply a natural force.
Police officers investigated the claims, concerned that a group of Satanists were getting away with murder. And although they conducted extensive investigations, no bodies, no bones, no bloodstains were ever found.
During that time, basically people often felt very negative about Satanism because the fundamentalists were essentially had a very good media juggernaut going, trying to say that there were these evil Satanists out there. So to be a Satanist at that point could be a little dangerous, particularly if you were in a smaller town. So essentially some of our members who earlier the climate was much more open after the 60s when the church started and into the 70s. It was basically a kind of live and let live. Everyone had a right to their own philosophy, where people could be very open. But at that point, many people chose to be underground simply because their jobs could be threatened. They might even be accused of all kinds of heinous things and be brought into court and have their lives ruined, as we've seen happen so many times. Backward masking in the rock industry has basically been put forth as a sign and symbol of satanic activity. And essentially, I think most psychologists will say that you really can't even hear any of elements that are actually played backwards in any kind of coherent fashion. Because people felt that this was something that was satanic, bands did it as a joke. But essentially, that's really all that it is. It has nothing to do with brainwashing. It doesn't function successfully in that way. And it wasn't done by anybody who's actually a Satanist. It was done by basically commercially opportunistic bands to get some attention. And it worked. To a Satanist, Satan is a symbol, but he's not a symbol of evil. He's a symbol of human independence, Promethean iconoclasm. We see Satan as Milton would have portrayed him, as the rebel who has his own direction that he has to follow regardless of all costs. Satan to us is also someone who is seen as a gentleman, someone who'd be in the drawing room, not as a brute. And Satan is also the one who would be promoting the eternal idea of human struggle. We see man as an animal. We do not believe in the spiritual, that we are a carnal religion and philosophy. And that means that our understanding of all of nature comes through our flesh, not through some seeking of spirit outside of ourselves, but through our existence in the fabric of nature. It's essentially, we use the name Satan because in Hebrew it means adversary or opposer or accuser. And we are the adversaries and opposers and accusers of all of the spiritual religions in the world. We believe that they are erroneous in seeking outside of man for some other force. The relativism and subjectivity, we find that they are essences of reality that Christians are trying to deny. We believe that all morals are basically subjective. They're something that a person decides. What is good for a person and what is bad for a person are subjective. There is no God to give that to you. We see laws of nature that are basic, but social rules are simply totally relativistic. They are not mandated by anything. Christians would like you to believe that they are, that their God is the one that makes the rules. And therefore they oppose that, and we cherish that. That's something that we find very welcome in the contemporary culture. We use ritual magic to release any kind of emotional energy that we might feel is becoming obsessive or compulsive. That's preventing us from proceeding in the way we usually like to live our lives. If someone is unjust to you, you might throw a curse at them to get rid of your anger. And you will work up a ritual where you, in that, symbolically destroy the person who has done wrong to you. And specifically, it's the idea of making justice happen. The influence of the Church of Satan is an unusual one because we think of ourselves as a cabal, an underground organization. We have many members who are in interesting positions who don't let anyone know that they're Satanists. So their way of moving things forward in the culture, either through writing or filmmaking or governmental positions that they're in, some are lawyers, we have many people in law enforcement, we have them in the military services, that our members are influencing the culture in a subtle way. So that Satanism is out there not as like a special interest group or a political party, but as something that infuses itself into the culture and might push things in a direction that we see more in line with our aesthetics and philosophy. During the 80s and kind of climaxing and ending by the mid-90s, there was something that we call the Satanic Panic. And essentially that was a hysteria created by fundamentalist Christianity. And it basically was saying that Satanists had infiltrated all cultures, from the lowest level of local kids spraying graffiti onto overpasses up to the leaders of all the great nations on the earth paying obeisance to Lucifer, and on a mid-level kidnapping women from white trash homes and breeding babies for